I lived in Brooklyn at the time on Lafayette Street. I was off the C train and I was getting ready for a rehearsal. They were doing a musical version of Dirty Dancing. And so I was in the middle of rehearsals for that. So the call time was 10 a.m. Near Columbus Circle. So I woke up and showered to get ready. And my best friend was at the house with me. He had been visiting me from Philadelphia. And he called me in and said, "Oh, a plane crashed into the World Trade Center." And I was like, "What, a Cessna plane?" Thinking, this is an idiot not see, it's the World Trade Center. Like, how do you not see that? Like, what's going on? He said, I need to get on the road because they're probably going to shut things down and the traffic's going to be crazy. So he's like, "I'm going to leave, drive back to Philly." And I said, "Well, I gotta get on the train." So went to the C train, stopped at my regular bodega to grab a coffee and like a muffin. Got on the train, platforms were packed because the trains were all backed up, but we all got on the train. It was a regular rush hour and nobody was fazed by it. It just didn't seem real that that's what was happening, that you don't process that as any tragic thing that's happening. I just think the human mind can't really process that that's what's going on. I got on the C train, which regularly stops at the World Trade Center, but they had made an announcement, due to this accident. And I don't even think the train conductors knew at the time. Because of this accident, we're not stopping at World Trade Center. We'll be skipping the stop. So we rolled through the World Trade Center and it was dark. The lights were off and we just kind of creeped through and we're just looking around and kept going. And they let people off on each stop and then finally got to Columbus Circle. And they said, "This is the last stop. We're shutting the trains down. Everybody needs to get off the train." So once I came up the big escalator that comes out of Columbus Circle, I could just see people in the streets. Cars were stopped in the street, and there was a fire truck, and people were standing around the fire truck listening to the radio, and the bars were open, which I thought was strange at 10 in the morning. Why are the bars open and people are drinking at the bars? And I go into one of the bars to watch on the TV to see that the towers that it had fallen, that a second plane had hit, and that the Pentagon had also been hit, and that they were looking, and a fourth plane had been hijacked, and they were trying to find it. So all of that happened in that span of me being on the train. And at that point, I still was like, I need to go to the rehearsal hall because I didn't know where to go. Where do I go now? They've shut the trains down. So I walked and the rehearsals were at John Jay College, which I think is like 60th in Columbus. So I walk to the school and there's people there from the cast, other actors. And they said, "Go home." I said, "There is no going home. They won't let us go home." I guess I'm walking back to Brooklyn. And I stood in line at payphones at this time. There were still payphones in New York at the time because my cell phone didn't work. There was no service. I stood in line. I ran into some actors from the Lion King cast, and they said, "Oh, why don't you come to the theater and make a phone call from the landline there?" So I walked to 42nd Street. Lion King was at 42nd Street at the time. And I went up and I called my family because I thought they need to know that I'm okay. I got in touch with my sister who was crying and, saying, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at the Lion King Theater. I'm at 42nd Street. Get out, get out. They're saying it's a target. That they may be targeting Times Square. You need to leave." So called a friend and he said to come to his apartment at 15th and 8th. So I walked down there, and as I'm walking down, fire trucks are coming up and away from everything. So I'm walking towards the soot and the ash and the smoke, and people are covered in it because they're walking away from it. They're walking uptown. And that's when it became a reality to me, once I saw people covered in the ash and the fire trucks and the police. And then I stayed there and we watched everything on the news. They went to donate blood because they were looking for people to donate blood. And they got turned away. So they came back and we just all sat around in the apartment. And once they announced it, I got on the train and I went home to my roommate and my friend who never made it back to Philly. He turned around and just came back and stayed with me. And the wind that day was blowing in that direction. So there was debris in my front yard. I lived in like a brownstone. So there was papers and like stuff had flown over and everything was flying over into Brooklyn. So I do remember that.
In the garden, the flowers all around us, and nothing in between us. Two people fall in love. In the garden, the sky is royal blue. Past midnight here with you, your smile makes me high. I twirl my fingers in your hair, you close your eyes, and we both want to realize just why I'm here. It's getting late, tomorrow's near. In the garden, I'll wait for you to show up. I hope you got my message, I hope you know I phoned. In the garden, we're king and queen of the grass, the flowers that they all pass, whatever time of year. You wrap your arms around my waist, forgetting. I'm wondering if I might pass out from your embrace, 'cause how it feels, just how you feel. Come inside, the fire warms us from the cold. I'll pull you closer so I'll hear the words you say. You testify. I justify. 6 a.m. now, I'll catch a cab downtown then. I didn't want a new friend, we can't make a sound. Don't phone me, don't hold me, don't break me or you'll own me. Don't phone me, don't hold me, don't break me or you'll own me. In the garden, the flowers all around us, and nothing in between us. Two people fall in love.
I landed at LaGuardia the night before, late on September 10th. I was on a tour. I'd been gone from the city for months. So it's like, I'm going to go to sleep, wake up, start making my calls, and like let everybody know that I was back in town. Looking forward to playing again. I was living on the Lower East Side with two roommates, and I woke up. They both had gone to work. I woke up kind of early, turned on the TV, and I remember it was a really beautiful day. So we like opened the windows right away. We were on the corner of Ludlow and Stanton. So opened the windows, could see the buildings across the street and everything, and turned on the TV. And this was in between when the first plane hit and the second plane. So it was all over the news. But at the time, they were saying it was a small plane and maybe an accident, whatever. And then having the windows open, when I saw on TV when the second plane hit, but I heard it out the window before it hit. TV's on that slight delay. So as I was watching it enter the screen, I heard it. out the window. And right then just knew like this was going to be, I don't know, life-changing day event, but didn't really know what to do. One of my roommates called me. He was maybe on the way to the train, but I feel like maybe that call dropped, and then all the cell phones were unusable the rest of the day. He came back. We decided to go to the bodega to take cash out of the ATM because we didn't know how long stuff was going to be offline, or and then we kind of sat there just watching the news sort of in disbelief the rest of the day. I think at one point towards the end of the day, I mean, we lived close enough, sort of, I guess it's like 3/4 of a mile, and maybe a 20-minute walk kind of south and west to get down there. So at one point we had heard that the firefighters were having trouble with walking on the ash, that their shoes were melting or their boots were melting, or I don't know how true that is. And like information flowed so differently back then when there was not really any social media, and when we're just kind of hearing people talk about things on the street or seeing a few things on the news. So we decided to get a big box and put any shoes or socks that we weren't using and walked down as close as we could get, and just at one point just handed them to a firefighter. And he didn't really look at us or say thank you, or there was just kind of this look that he'd already been through it that day and was in the middle of whatever he had been doing the rest of the day. He just kind of took it and walked away. But yeah, there was this like feeling of wanting to do something, and nobody really knew what to do. That's about the best that we could come up with. But yeah, it was. I think when I think back on that day, the events in the morning, I remember them so clearly, and the rest of the day is just kind of a fog, which is maybe kind of a common thing for people. But yeah, it's one of those things. Obviously, you never forget. The thing about that day is that I remember the initial events so clearly, the window being open, seeing it on TV, hearing it, all of that is crystal clear. The rest of the day is kind of a fog. And the fact that it's been 20 years, which also it simultaneously has flown by, and I also feels like an entire lifetime ago, I think has really crystallized a lot of that.
We still made room, even in the worst of times, to hold on to our joy while defending the bloodline. We gained our strength, marching to our own drum, a steadfast rhythm. There was more to come, more to come. Dark sky coming, moonless night, vigilant movement headed to the light. Do we keep on running? Do we keep on hiding out? This time is do or die. It's time to let it ride. We won't run for cover. Just hold on, brother, 'cause this is our time. So let's ride, ride, ride. freedom didn't come easy. Had to make a lot of noise. Had to keep composure. They won't steal our joy. He set it in motion, a dream worth living for. So we grab our tribe and we're gonna do him right.